over. Holy smokes.
Wait,
another crazy position out of a Najdorf. And of course, a Najdorf. There's Alexei. There's a Najdorf.
Also, what happened to Jeffrey?
This?
Look at Jeffrey. He is in the sunken place.
Oh yeah, he is. No, somebody in the chat said it's his Sarana versus head.
And what is this opening? Because Jeffrey has only spent 9 seconds, and Alexei is now thinking, and clearly there's some discovery on this rook on 8, and the bar just shot up in Jeffrey's favor. So there must be a tactic that just wins for white on the spot. And
yeah, I mean, going into this position without full preparation. Okay, so
what about knight f4?
Knight f4. So you're exposing the attack on the rook. Also, d5. I would maybe just castle. I mean, is that so outlandish?
Whoa! If you castle here, that feels.
Well, let me look. But I think that. See, if I was going to say also c4, but you have to sort of play positionally. I think the point is black cannot develop. If he puts his bishop out to e7, you take it. Right. If he places his knight on c6, you take it and go knight f6 check. Black is paralyzed. The reality is white is not in a hurry. He can actually tighten the screws.
Yeah, I'm just showing some of these positions here, and just every tactic should favor white with that black king stuck in the center. And so, like, what else can you do here? So we're talking knight c6 doesn't work because knight takes and knight f6 check. So what?
Rook a7.
Rook a7. Then there's a discovery down on that rook on a7.
Stop it. But right? How exactly? Maybe knight takes b5. Maybe you give up that rook.
Just knight takes
just
e6.
Try to develop. Yeah.
Right. I take on e6. It forces you to take with something. I just take this rook and yikes.
Yeah, it's bad.
Oh, actually, maybe you can even throw in a bishop. No, bishop b6 is covered by the knight. I was like trying to get a little cute over there, and I failed. So I'm just gonna.
Look at another thing. I know it's good. If you play bishop d3, Robert, knight takes c6, fe queen g6 check becomes a possibility in some lines.
You're such a.
I had to indicate this. Not that it's important because
I just want to.
Bishop takes c6 exists, but just had to point it out.
I want to just show something like this, like queen g6. Give me that checkmate, taking away all the squares from your king. It's boxed in. That would be too good to be true.
He has taken and gone a5, has Sarana trying to create chances, but what he's trying to do is desperately get a knight to c5. I don't think he's going to have to look at this.
Oh, my
Look at this.
Gosh.
Knight a6. He'll hold on, but then even knight c7 check.
Yeah, knight c7 looks pretty good at the very least, because the point that Dunn is making is knight c7, you take, I take, the queen takes. At the end, you win a piece for black, but don't forget about that rook that's hanging in the corner and the queen spying it. So I know I drew a bunch of arrows, so I'll just put them on the board for everybody. Thank you for your rook. And it's maybe not the worst possible situation for black. There is an attack on the bishop. Behind it is a check on c3. So you do have to be careful here for white. And that's why Jeffrey hasn't moved yet.
I would consider castling here, actually. In these positions, sometimes when you analyze a lot with computers, what you see is that they somehow prioritize the sort of direct development. But Jeffrey has gone knight c7. He's gone for the exchange. My worry is this position. He's got to find a good move. Maybe rook c1. Yep.
And it's protected. That's very important.
It is
defended. Because otherwise a move like bishop b5 or pawn d5 would exploit the fact that the rook is under attack behind the bishop. But as is usually the case, a rook wins a stare down with a queen, especially when a bishop is defending the c1 square. So black has nada. White can castle next. The a5 pawn is also.
Oh man, buckle up.
Bishop takes e6. Anybody? Yeah, this is not looking good. Knight c3 seems to be forced, but bishop takes d7. White can even castle in the end and just give that rook. Say okay. Yeah. There is no good news. I was going to say the good news is that castling is met with knight e2 check, but you're right. Even there,
I would castle. Just castle.
Yeah, I'm with you.
That is the extent of white's dominance.
Right. You check. You move the king away wherever. Knight takes, rook takes, and your king is on d7. You haven't developed. You can't move your bishop because the rook will be hanging behind it. Yikes! Yikes! Yikes!
Yeah.
Yikes!
And my good friend Sam Shankland, Grandmaster Sam Shankland, also from the Bay Area, he advocates this a lot. Where you make a move that initially seems impossible because of some sort of refutation, such as the move castles. And he says, the next question that you always have to ask yourself is, what happens if I do it anyway? You sort of hack your brain into considering a move that your sort of animal brain refutes because of a superficial reason, if that makes sense.
Right.
Oh!
Oh my gosh!
That's a sick move! Are you kidding me?
Oh my gosh, and Jeffrey just can't believe
Oh, that's a huge move. I mean, white is still better, but that's a lion's share of his advantage.
we need to look at that again. And the move d5 blocked the queen from retreating, but more importantly, it allowed this insane tactic of queen h2 check.
He's trying to keep the smile off his face. I can tell Sarana's trying to smile. Look at him biting the ends of his lips. I mean, and he should smile. That is a sick idea.
Wow, and white is still better. However, you look at the material, it is a knight and a pawn for a rook. And the a2 pawn can actually be captured, but then you lose the g7 pawn. So I would say, Danya, that here is a very tough decision for Alexei, because giving up the g7 pawn is really hard, because then you get a clear pawn majority to your opponent. So you take on a2, looks good, you free up your b pawn, but you lose an important defending pawn against the passers. He does take on a2. I think that is the right move, but it just is hard to play psychologically.
And Jeffrey is, not to downplay his sort of demeanor and his maturity, he is just impervious to these things. He just, literally puts his head down and plows forward. So, but this is some serious counterplay now. D4, B3, this could turn around in Black's favor, Robert.
Yeah, you're saying plow forward. These pawns are doing just that. Bishop C5 not only attacks F2, it says D4, and then once D4 happens, the bishop no longer attacks this knight on C3. So I just push these pawns.
I mean, can you take the knight on C3? Is that so crazy? Because I'm trying to bring these pawns closer together and then bring my king over, but clearly that's not.
I know you don't have time, because if you take B takes, it's like rook
king
C1.
G2.
King G2 is smart, because rook C1, you say, oh, I stop your pawns, but after D4, king G2, you throw in bishop A3 to force the rook up to C2, and then you defend this pawn by playing bishop B2, and then you have D3, and you win the game. So you encourage the rook up to an approachable square.
If he pulls this out, and I'm not going to speculate any further because we're commentators, and commentators are known to produce certain effects. But this is, this is unbelievable. Actually, this is an incredible resource that he just uncorked there.
I mean, where's my book? I like to write these things down, so I'm writing down this queen H2 check.
So am I.
Yeah, I have my notebook here. It's handy. So it's
we're both taking the pen. I don't have a pen though. I need a pen.
I mean, I'm writing down right now.
So I have one in my. I actually have a pen in my pocket. I don't even know why I have one in my pocket, but I just do. There we go.
I wrote it down, so I'm ready to continue commenting.
I'm showing this in some of my lessons today.
Oh, okay. Well, I didn't know you'd be, first to the punch there. I don't have any lessons today, so I'm just writing it down for my own recollection. So king to G2 was played by Danya. It's 2 passed pawns here, and that is very bad news for Jeff. Can you imagine after the first 2 games where Jeffrey was much better with the black pieces? In fact, completely winning if he had played queen E1 check before G4. And then in this game where he was up in exchange, and then his opponent's king was in the center, overlooks queen H2 check, and doesn't just spoil his advantage, but if he loses this game, oh my gosh.
That would be a huge blow. Now, to put things into context here, I don't think he is losing, but it's going to be very close. And he also could win this. I mean, because he's got the pawn majority. If he contains the pawns, I know it sounds crazy, but sometimes these positions can be very hard to defend. Because once the initiative fizzles out, Robert, the king blockades the pawns. The rook is a force to be reckoned with on the other side of the board.
Let me very concretely. If I play D4, okay, you play king F3. And if I play C2, what are you going to do about that? Because my idea is like bishop A3 next. I guess you have king D2, king D2. So your king does run.
And that's a draw, I think.
But my whole point was...
No, you're absolutely right. That's
C1, I have D3, and thank you for your rook, putting it in a vulnerable square. And otherwise...
He's got to find it.
Bishop A3.
Okay, so he has brought his king. He's playing for a win. Now what? Now, okay, rook D8.
Uh-oh. But those pawns...
C8. Whoa. D3 Monka S.
Yeah, these pawns are too quick right now.
D3, king D4, and bishop A3. All my lands.
Well, king D4, there will be rook D8 check. Where's your king run to? King E4, rook E... Yeah, I think your king just runs.
I guess what you do here... Okay, king D5.
Can you just run your king E4 and F3?
And where does the bishop... the bishop on D4.
Well, what's white's move?
F3.
Okay. F3, so your point is after C2, king D2, you don't have the good bishop move because the rook is actually in the right place behind the pawn. I got you.
Right. But then king D4. Rook D8, king C4. But then rook back to C8. So you try to tie yourself to the bishop. That's what he does.
Ooh, now C2 check.
Oh, that is a nice move. Look at that. Springs the slingshot.
Yeah,
Rook A8 maybe is forced, but then the king comes in to C4 B3. This is unbelievable.
I think it's just winning. This is.
Yep, he has nothing. I mean, this is, and he doesn't even go C2. He doesn't even rush.
Yeah, because you know king E3. There's nothing that white can do.
Exactly, he's paralyzed. He resigns the game.
What? And look at Sarana. Did you see that? He took a breath. He's like, how in the world did I